Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. We begin our video with a story in which an act of malicious compliance took place. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Power for Good. Admittedly, this didn't happen recently. This was many more years ago than I care to admit, way back when I was still a student at university studying computer science. Cue wobbly lines traveling back in time. Very late one night, sitting in the computer lab at university, a friend of mine and I received a very convincing-looking phishing email, clearly targeting students at our university looking for email logins and passwords. If it wasn't for the fact that we're proudly geeky and technically minded, we might have fallen for it. One of the better crafted phishing mails I'd seen in a very long time. After reporting the scam to the network admin, we decided to have some fun. Being comp sci students, we had access to not only some server space, but plenty of free time and development tools. Less than an hour later, we had a small script set up which would access the phishing site, generate realistic-looking but fake accounts using a dictionary of real names, and generate realistic-looking but fake passwords. The script would then submit one of these fake logins to the phishing site with a random time between each submission, at which point we turned it on and forgot about it. A few weeks later, we checked in and discovered the phishing site had received hundreds of thousands of our fake farmed accounts, and from there we left it running until our accounts got disabled when we left the university. It still makes me happy to this day to think back and realize someone who'd spent their time building a site designed to prey on the vulnerable and steal their login details had spent all that time just to be left with a database filled with potentially millions of account details, none of which would work. Even if others had fallen for the trick and entered their real email password, it would have been a case of the attackers finding a needle in a haystack. And our second story. An old but gold story. So 25 years ago, sitting in the Safeway parking lot, my mom had just ran in to get a few things for supper that night while I waited in the car. The car in front of me pulled in while the guy took a drag on his cigarette. He opened his door, kicked some fast food wrappers out of the car, and threw his cigarette on the ground. Obviously enraged, I got out of the car and yelled, "Hey, what the hell?" at him. He told me to F off as he walked away. So I'd noticed he left his window down like most smokers do, so I proceeded to stuff the trash back through the window, including the still lit cigarette. I went back to my car and waited. My mom came back soon and put the few things, 6 bags, into the trunk. I wasn't paying attention, but my mom looked at the car in front of us and it was smoking inside. We got out and the cigarette had caught on the food wrappers or seat. Mom told me to run into the store and call 911, a car's on fire. I did so, feeling guilty. We moved our car and waited for the fire truck to come. The driver had shown up before the truck did, opened his car, and a huge billowing cloud of smoke engulfed him, and he quickly started to stomp out on his front seat. The fire truck came right away, and all the chaos ensued. I never knew what happened as my mom said, "Let's go, I have to get dinner started." I felt bad but never told anyone until now. Just felt it was time to share. And our next story. Guns on a plane? Okay. Nail clippers? I don't think so, lady. I work for FBOP, Federal Bureau of Prisons. The facility I worked at was a complex, 4 different facilities/levels of inmates: camp, medium, max, supermax. I'd made the transport team, which usually just consisted of busing guys to transfer facilities, medical appointments, etc. We also had to handle emergency transports to hospitals, or in this case, WITSEC transfers. WITSECs are in-prison witness protection inmates, usually guys who testified on the big bosses for lighter sentences. So, as you can imagine, if someone recognized them, we had to move them pretty fast. So our transport team had a go bag in our locker. I was pretty new, so I'd gone out when first accepted to transport and just bought the bare minimum. Go bags are like a medium-sized purse. I had a change of underwear, soft pants, t-shirt. I just picked up one of those prepackaged toiletry bags from Walgreens. So I come into work and I'm walking down to my unit when LT intercepts me. Seems someone effed up big time, and we got a WITSEC and his co-defendant, guy he testified against, in the same facility. So Witzek was snatched up, is in the SHU, and we're to take him to a facility in Florida. Plane leaves in a couple of hours, driver standing by, inmates' belongings will be mailed. Why the big hurry? Well, both these guys are max security with very high escape/threat to public safety rating and gang affiliations. Basically, if one knew the other was that close, it could kick off a full-blown riot. If I remember right, 3 people's heads rolled for that F-up. So we're off to grab our go bags, get paperwork, and off to the armory. This guy required transport in a 5-point harness, minimum 2 armed guards, so we're issued a 9mm and 45 rounds of ammo each. We have 3 mags, 2 on our belts, 1 in the gun, and 1 round chambered. We're required to count each bullet before leaving the armory. Me and partner get all necessary documents in triplicate and scoop up our guy, and off we go. Get to the airport in Denver, there's a whole special procedure for check-in. One of the things was they give you a red card with your boarding pass to let TSA know you're law enforcement and have a weapon with you. Now keep in mind this was a few years after 9/11. All this stuff was still new. We have to take our restrained inmate through security now. We were a bit taken aback by this. Okay, we say, and shuffle our guy on down. Now, once we showed the gatekeeper, the person who made sure there were only ticketed passengers past that point, our tickets and red cards, we're directed to a separate security line, where we secured our inmate in a holding room, had TSA verify our ammo count, weapons cleared, etc. More paperwork. You have to verify the count when you land, too. So my partner and I are all done with weapons declaration, paperwork signed, and TSA says, I need to scan your bags, too. We both shrug and toss them on her belt. They buzz through, lady stops the belt and is scrutinizing the screen. Finally, she says to me, I need you to open your bag. I give her a quizzical look, but open it up. She points to my toiletries bag and says, open this. Since I'd never used it before, I had to open all the packaging, etc. I dumped the contents out. The TSA lady exclaimed accusatorily, aha! Grabs the 1-inch long by maybe a 1/4-inch wide pair of nail clippers. I mean, seriously, they were the smallest ones I'd ever seen in my life. So TSA lady snatched them up and triumphantly looks at me, and with all the smugness of a well-seasoned airport security monkey informs me, these are contraband. I stare at her, actually speechless for at least 30 seconds. I blink a few times and say very calmly, okay, you keep them then, and start to throw my stuff back in my bag. But oh no, Miss TSA isn't going down that easily. She very boldly informs me that she isn't my mother or my personal assistant. I brought the contraband into the airport and I can walk my happy butt right back outside with it. Me. And put it where? TSA. I don't care what you do with it as long as it ain't in here. Me. If you truly feel those clippers in my possession are a threat to the security of the aircraft, then by all means keep them. But we don't have time to personally take them outside. TSA. Not my problem. You should have thought of that before you tried sneaking contraband on my plane. Me. You do remember a few minutes ago when you and I counted out 45 rounds of 9mm ammunition, right? TSA. So? Me. Well, I'm in a pinch. I'm going to say odds are pretty good given my available options. The last thing I'd use to assert control over an entire plane is the 1-inch nail clippers of doom. In fact, if I found myself left with no other options outside of the death clippers, I'd just call the whole thing off. By the way, partner's been losing his crap ever since he realized she was being dead serious. He's not as quiet as he thinks he is, snorting, gasping, laughing on the other side of her x-ray belt. TSA. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not throwing them away for you, and I sure as hell ain't letting you board my plane with them. Me. Ma'am, maybe we can just step back and take a logical look at the situation. We need to board our flight. Nobody can set foot on that plane until we get our inmate on and secured. I am a federal officer. My partner and I really don't want to draw any more attention to ourselves than necessary for our safety and yours. I have a firearm and 45 rounds on my person. Surely, if I can be trusted with that, I can be trusted with the clippers. And I promise to dispose of them as soon as we land so it'll never be an issue again. TSA. I don't think you know who you're talking to, but it ain't me. I said take them and go. She felt as though this was a mic drop moment as she said her piece and proceeded to back away, fold her arms, and stare at me. So I just started laughing at the absurdity of the situation. I grab the clippers, put them in my front pocket, tell partner, let's go. We go get our inmate and start shuffling him to the front. Partner's on the phone with lieutenant and captain telling them what's been going on. They can't believe it and are PO'd. We're being paged to come to gate X to board. I get out of TSA lady's sight and approach different TSA security lady, ask her to get a supervisor for me as we have an issue with our transport and show her my red card. She calls supervisor with some kind of get your butt here now code because within seconds, supervisor is jogging up to us. I ask him if he can kindly call Gate X for Flight Y and let them know they're going to be delayed approximately an hour because I can't dispose of my contraband nail clippers within the airport. He looks at me like a confused puppy, head tilt and everything, and says, huh? While eyeing my weapon. I tell him, I'm very sorry, I didn't realize I had clippers in my bag. Your TSA agent was very clear that no exceptions could be made, and I'm required to remove them from the premises before we can board. Unless, of course, if you wouldn't mind, could you possibly help me out so we don't have to escort him, nodded towards inmate, back through the airport? I pull the instrument of doom from my pocket and offer them to him. Well, to wrap this up finally, supervisor takes clippers, says he'll address this, and gives us a ride on the cart to our gate. We board, and the rest of the trip was uneventful. Less the non-stop hilarious quips my partner was dishing out the whole time. He told the story to everyone we met on that trip. Warden even heard about it and brought us into his office so he could hear the story firsthand. Everyone thought it was funny after the fact. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.